My name is Oluwaseyi Adegoke Adeyemo, and I love to always call my full name because, as far as I'm concerned, names are important, and I'm lucky because, of course, I didn't name myself. My parents named me. In my opinion, they gave me very good names. Oluwaseyi means this is what God has done. As my father said to me that at a point in time, I was not breathing again, I was not moving, and him and my mom had to pray. And that day, I moved, and they said, truly, this is what God has done. Adigoke means this is the crown moving up. In other words, the level of royalty that we had before, this is a step up, this is scaling up. I also believe that has been very impactful in the way God has led me in life. Adiyem, of course, my surname, and I also believe strongly that that is also a very, very powerful name, though it's a family name. But I personally own it because of the truth. This crown fits the child. Maybe I will start from that because my life is around the crown. Uh, Early in life, I've always known that because I was born into a Christian home, my parents are truly Christians because they believe that the worship of God was important. I probably also need to add that when we were growing up was when the apostolic faith thing was very strong, and they would always come to our area when we were very small to come and carry us to apostolic faith and Tony then. And so when you say the crown fits the child, it means that the child is able to carry the crown because he's got the ordination, the calling, the blessing from the owner of the crown. And so for me, that's been my story. My story has been shaped by God really from childhood. I remember clearly that I also wrote my first play when I was 9 years old. A friend of mine, Shiji Oguyoye, I don't know where she's right. I'm sure she's married and old like I am, was doing our 10th year birthday, and we needed to act a play. I quickly wrote, scribbled something, and we acted it. And it was a surprise in my area. I grew up in Obanikoro, and because people had always felt, I'm a butter. And they saw this young man now coming out, acting, and all of that. That also have shaped my life because it's shown me that I am an entertainment person, I'm a public person. And so I'm not surprised today that I'm into communications, I'm into public speaking, I'm a pastor, I am a singer. So right from start, when I was very small, all that had been evident in my life that I was going to be operating in the public space. So I might have a face of a gentle and reserved person. And in some way, I might also categorize myself as being reserved, but essentially, I love the public. I love to impact. I love to engage with a lot of people, unlike most people who get worried or agitated by public. I get fueled up when I see people. In fact, the more people, I become intoxicated. In fact, sometimes I worry for people who say they need to drink or smoke before they need to face the crowd. Me, I'm already high, by nature. In fact, the more people, the more excited, the more I'm driven. And so what I then end up doing is controlling myself, sometimes not to talk too much and take too much time. So the plan for me was, like every other young person, go to university, graduate, and my desire was to become an accountant. But of course, then I didn't get into the uni or higher school on time. I was home. I ended up going into the Nigerian Customs Service. I worked in there for 19 years, and it was during whilst I was in customs that I went to school. So I actually went to part-time schools. I went to LASU, that's Lagos State University. I went to Unilag for my master's. I did professional exams, became a chartered administrator, all of that whilst I was in customs. And when I retired from the Nigerian Customs Service, because again, that's also a very interesting story as far as I'm concerned, it was clear, as much as financially, customs was rewarding, but it was clear that is I'm not that kind of a person. People felt I probably was too stubborn, because against a lot of people's advice, I just woke up one day and I said, I'm not doing this again. I voluntarily put in my paper and I left customs. I went into printing initially, because then I had a printing press. I had set up a printing press for my wife, joined her. But I discovered that, again, that was really not what I wanted to do. Because clearly, I remember that when I begged God, when the struggle in my heart was around, should I leave custom? Should I stay back? God said, leave and go and start talking. So I didn't understand what he meant by talking. So when I left and I tried printing and printing was not working, I started motivational speaking. I was going from one university to the other, and for one strange reason, I was getting invites. People wanted to listen to me. I was traveling, Ogun State University, LASU, UNILAG. They would have one event or the other. They would call me. JCI, that's Junior Chamber International, and a host of other people they were calling. But again, I wasn't getting any remuneration for that. So, and I had a family to feed. I then went into publishing, which was what birthed Inside Watch Africa. That is a very interesting story, and I like to quickly share it because I believe it's a very, very good story. A young man was in the printing press, was shouting. He now lives in America. He was having problems with my staff. So he had just printed his own magazine and wanted to take it away, but he didn't pay. So they wanted him to pay, and so they started fighting. And so I said he should come in, and he told me his story. And I said, all right, let him go. Of course, that got me into trouble with my wife because we're partners in the printing press. And said, yeah, look, this kind of style of you telling people to go with our money will not help us, so it's going to affect our business and all that. But to the glory of God, the man came back and paid. And it was at that time that I said to myself, if I had the equipment to produce a magazine for other people, why can't I start? I mean, maybe that's not enough preparation, because I just started because I felt that I had something to share. I had always believed that Africans needed to tell their story from their own angle, and that we cannot continue to allow the rest of the world to tell our story, and that Africa need to own their story, which was what bettered Inside Watch Africa. In other words, telling the story of Africa from the inside. So that's what bettered that. But because God had told me I was going to talk, so I went on still talking. I became a public analyst. I would always regularly be invited to TV shows or speak, talk, which I still do today. I moderate conferences and seminars. I am always, most of the time, masters of ceremonies for most trade and tourism events in Nigeria. At some point in my life, I was in Celestial Church of God. I'd been told I was going to be a pastor, and so many people had said, oh, you're going to be a pastor, and I'd always pushed that aside. But I remember vividly that my senior pastor, one year, I can't remember the year now exactly, I traveled to South Africa, and by the time I came, he said, look, you have been running. This time around, we're going to ordain you. I must say that I'd gone to Faith Seminary in Otta, and I'd been ordained then as a pastor. The way I am, I went back to church and went back to my regular space. I didn't come to disrupt church because we were told at graduation that we're not ordaining you to go and scatter your church. Go to where you were sitting before, do what you were doing before. And that's what I did. Went back to my former seat. And so one day, the pastor came and said it was time. I was registered and taken to CAC seminary. So that was my second seminary, as it were, to be trained as a CAC pastor, Christ Apostolic Church worldwide. And today I am one of the assistant pastors in Christ Apostolic Church, Okioko, Mount. My encouragement is that be prepared. Today I'm operating in a couple of spaces because I prepare myself. I sing, thank God for the gifting of singing, and God has given me the opportunity to prepare myself. I've led and worked with some band before. Eventually, I started ministering. I speak. I have prepared myself. I've continued to prepare myself. Make sure that I learn how to do this well, because so you might think you're going to speak in Nigeria. By the grace of God, today I speak across Africa. Is because I've continued to prepare myself. So when the opportunity comes, you would have sufficient will, the strength, the knowledge to deliver because you're prepared yourself. Again, when I started publishing, I had to go to Federal Radio Corporation training in Ikeja to also equip myself so that I can be properly equipped to do the job. So I've always believed that whatever you're going to be doing in this world, whatever it is, make sure you get some level of training. It always helps, because at the end of the day, you can sit confidently to deliver on the job. So yes, you might be confused, like all of us. Most people in this world, I'm sure if you ask Dangote today, he will tell you that at some point he was confused, he wasn't sure, but he kept at it, he kept doing it diligently with all his heart, and at the end of the day, it started making sense. And at the end of the day, because the only way to be successful in everything you do is to do it very well, he kept learning at the job, he kept, preparing and equipping himself, and today is the richest man in the whole of Africa. So for me, preparation is critical. Be diligent, be committed to what you're doing. There's no excuse to be lazy. I think, like the Bible clearly says, that he looks at the house, or he passes the house of a lazy man, and he discovers that the grasses have overgrown. So for me, the only way is be prepared. Continue to prepare yourself. Pray, and God will lead you and guide you through where you're supposed to go.